Hey folks, welcome to FiddleHed Fiddle Lessons, continuing with the Irish tune variation course. I'm going to show you how to add triplets to tunes. So it's kind of a nice effect, especially for four tunes like reels, polkas, and hornpipes. Let's take a tune and give you an example before you get started. So like Miss Monaghan's. I'm going to add a triplet near the beginning. So in this lesson, I'm going to give you some exercises and things to work on, as well as some more examples. So triplets happen a lot in jigs. In fact, jigs are mostly triplets, right? Like Lilting Banshee. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. But in 4/4 tunes, they're a little less common. It's more pops up as an ornament or a variation or embellishment. All right. And so anyway, but what we can do is just practice them kind of separately from tunes to get a really good feel for how to do this kind of operation, and then it'll be natural to start adding to tunes. So what we can do is I'm going to start really simple and then give you more complex exercises. So we're going to start with just basically a long note on D or a dotted quarter note followed by 3 triplets. So that's not too hard, right? Now let's try to add, instead of that long D, we're going to add a swing double, or basically a quarter plus an eighth note. So it'll be like. You can do it fast and slow. Alright, and then the next thing you could do is to take that and practice it on any scale that you're working on. So I'm going to do it on D major. And so on. And then a nice way to vary, so sometimes I like to make these sort of patterns that combine different patterns, and another way to practice the same pattern of that long, short, plus a triplet is to have it alternate for each note. So I would do the long short on the open D, then triplet on D1, and then you can do the same thing going down. So you move through the scale more quickly if you divide up the pattern among 2 notes. All right. So however you choose to practice it, whatever scale, I'd like you to take a moment to pause the video and practice that right now. All right, cool. So before we move on from this, I want to give you a more challenging, I think it's a more challenging way to do the basic rhythm of two notes plus a triplet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten out those first 2 notes. I'm actually going to use stronger beat, a tambourine on the ground. And so what we're basically doing is dot, 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 dot. So the first 2 notes, instead of long, short, are the same length now. So that seems to be harder for students than when I teach them in person. I think there's something about a more rhythmic tension there, but it's very good if you can get that feel. Another way to practice it, which may not be easier, but it's just another way, is to just clap that rhythm. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna kind of move on from that, and we're gonna add triplets, but with more of like a melodic pattern. So basically, we're going to practice a melodic pattern on the scale. I call this pattern 1-2-1. It's a 3-note pattern that starts on a note, goes up a note, and comes back. So something like we do it on D major. So I'm gonna have you practice that against the two notes versus that. So we could do something like D twice. Actually, let's do a long D. Long D. It's the same rhythm we did earlier just on open D, but now we're adding this pattern. The same way you could do the scale. I like to use fourth finger there from that D3. You could go to open A. It's a little more awkward though. Versus. Alright? So, and then another way we could do the same thing would be to, instead of one long dotted quarter note at the beginning, we could do two notes, well, like we did before, two swung notes, like. All right, so again, I recommend you pause the video, practice those. I have sheet music for this on FiddleHed, so you can use that if it's helpful. And then I'm just gonna, before giving you some examples of this in tunes, how this principle works, I'm gonna give you, or just suggest a few other melodic patterns that involve triplets that you can use to practice. So another one would be, I call this pattern 1, 2, 3. Basically for each note of the scale, we play that note, note above it, and a note above that. So sticking to the D major scale, with a 1, 2, 3 pattern would look like. So I have lessons on these patterns in a part of the site, the FiddleHed site, called How to Make Scales Fun, if you want to delve more into melodic patterns, which by the way will help you add variation to tunes as well as improvise and compose if you have a handle on how these patterns work. So I'll give you one more pattern, which is 1, 3, 1. So that would be a start note, then skipping up a note, or on this scale basically jumping a third and then back. So it'd be like open 2, open would be your first step, then D 1, 3, 1 would be your next step, D2, either open A or D4 is your next step. So we have. And so all these patterns, I should say, you can also practice with different bowings, separate bows. Maybe start there and then try slur 3. In fact, once you get the pattern down a lot is when you would want to really delve into trying different bowings out. You know, first get the left hand, figure it out, and then you can start to really experiment with your bowing. And a few other jig slurring patterns would be slur 2, separate 1. Say we did the first pattern, the 1, 2, 1 pattern. Or we could do separate 1, then slur 3. Alright, so that's about it for some more exercises on the page for this on FiddleHed. But now I just want to get into some examples, okay? So a simple example that I'll start with is carry polka. So the beginning of it, as I have it arranged, is all right. And so all I'm doing to add a triplet there is 2, 3, 2. Here's the basic again. And here's the triplet. So what we're now gonna do is something is a key part of the course, of this Irish variation course, which is creating like little loops where you alternate between the basic version and the variation. And you just continuously do it. And that way you're really gonna develop a sense of how the variation sounds, if it's good, if you like it, so on and so forth. It's a great way to test out the variation. So let's take a moment and loop these two together. Here we go. So starting with the basic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basic, variation. So if you really take that to heart and do that on any tune you learn, you know, if you're working on any kind of variation, go through that process. It's the most important thing you can get out of this entire course that I'm giving, which is to sort of just always return to something basic from the variation back and forth. They both will inform each other. Okay, so now I'm just gonna give a few other examples. So let's look at a real Whiskey Before Breakfast. I'm gonna add triplets at the beginning of there. So let me do more, the whole first quarter, basic. And then now with the triplets. Let's do another example. Tam Lin, basic was. And I'm gonna add a triplet at the beginning. Basic again. And now triplet. So I want to return to the example I gave in the beginning, Miss Monaghan's. This will be the last one, I think. This is an interesting one because when I arranged the basic version, I actually included this triplet. There's the triplet, D2, 1 open. So what I now want to do is introduce the idea of subtraction. Very important tool for learning tunes. Like a lot of times if you encounter written music, you may notice that it's written with embellishments. And my message to you is try to not do any of that when you first learn a tune. Try to just find what that core essence of the tune is. It may not be clear, so I'm gonna throughout this course be giving you kind of instruction on this, how to pare things down. And not only will that give you a sense of like what that essential melody is, if you can do that, then you can then recreate the tune in fantastic new ways. Simply fantastic. I don't get to use that word enough. All right. So if we're looking at Miss Monaghan's and you're learning it for the first time. Oh, I want to simplify. I want to take out triplets. I want to take out, you know, grace notes, slides, anything like that. So I'm going to take this out. And here's the method for removing triplets from like 4/4 type tunes. It's rule of thumb, but just take out the middle note. Taking that out will usually do the trick. So it would have, I'm just gonna take out that D1. So we have, all right, and then conversely, you know, you might want to add some sort of middle note. If we like go back to Tam Lin, actually added a note at the end for that one. Added open G. All right, so I think that's a very valuable idea, more just general like approach to learning tunes. Even before you're thinking of variation, is simplify it to its basic core form. So I think that about covers it. Let me see if I had any other things in my notes. No, I think that's it. Hey, I hope this was useful to you, let me know how it goes. Let me know what's working for you and how these lessons could be improved. And thanks for watching. See you soon. Go to FiddleHed.com for a progressive step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Love you. Excellent. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.